The 32nd Guam Youth Congress is hereby called to order. I now call on Representative Byron Bloss for the prayer. Please stand.
Lord, we'd like to thank you for giving us another day of life and bringing everyone here safely. We'd like to ask that you open our hearts and minds in order to make this session and the sessions respectively in our remainder of our term be productive, and for us to do your will, not only for the youth of our island, but for our wider community. And we ask that you let each thought, each word, each deed of mind be an act of love divine, and everything that I shall do shall be my God for love of you. The gift of life you gave to me, oh let my heart be dwelling be. What is there that I will not do, my God and me, for love of you? Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom. Father Dueñas. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I now call on Representative Travis Bloss for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch, where so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land and of the free, and the home of the brave.
I now call on Representative Cruz for the Guam hymn.
Fanogi chamorro, purita nota, cantara tu nonya itoluiula. Para honra, para gloria, aviva isla
I now call on Representative Tyron for the Inifresi.
Inifresi, kini mastakilo ihina soku, imastakilum gi corazonhu, nani mas figu nana senyahu, Hua fressen maisadu, para bai hu protehi, dan hu defendi, ihi nengi, I kotura, I lenguahi, I airi, I hanum, zanitanu tamoru. Ni ineng shaku diretsu gininzuus tata, esti hua fitma gihilui biblia, zani benderahu I benderin guahan.
You may be seated. I now call on the recording secretary for the roll call.
Representative Uggan. Representative Byron Blas. Representative Travis Blas. Representative Cruz. Representative DeHelig. Representative DeGracia. Representative Gitoso. Representative Dinsman. Representative Dolohan. Representative Duenas. Representative Fleeson. Representative Garrido. Representative LeBang. Secretary Lorenzo. Representative Maige. Representative Mantanani. Representative McDonald. Representative Peretta. Representative Pierre Paul. Representative Kineni. Representative Quintanilla. Vice Speaker Richards. Representative Roque. Representative Rosario. Representative Elijah Santos. Representative Javen Santos. Representative Tyron. Representative Trinidad. Speaker Christian Valencia. Representative Isabel Valencia. Mr. Speaker, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Maravilla. Speaker Javen Santos, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to make a motion to waive items 7 through 9 from the session agenda.
There's been a motion to waive items 7 to 9 of the session agenda. Any objections? So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We're now on the item 10, reports of standing committees. Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to make the roll call reflect Representative Quintanilla and Isabel Valencia.
There's been a motion that the roll call reflect Representative Valencia. Are there any objections?
And Quintanilla.
I'm sorry?
Tristan.
And Representative Quintanilla. Are there any objections? None? So ordered. We're now on reports of standing committees. Speaker Javen Santos, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the Committee on Rules, we held our previous meeting a week ago, and I had informed the body I'd informed the committee that as chairperson, this session, during their report, that they would report their confirmed membership. So I invite all the committee chair people to read their committee membership into the so that it can be recorded. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. Reports of standing committees. Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, for Committee on Education and Youth Affairs, we have 8 members, which are Representative Maria De Lojan, Representative Chivo Maiga, Representative Chelsea Roque, Representative Casey Rosario, Representative Javon Santos, Representative Isabel Valencia, and Representative Byron Blas being the vice chair, and myself being the chairman. And I would append this to the legislative journal for today.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Any other committee chairpersons? Representative Garrido, you're recognized.
Testing. Mr. Speaker, I would like to report on the members that consist of Public Safety and Judiciary. So there are 8 members, including myself. I have Maria De Lojan, Al Labang, DeMarco Caneni, Lauren Dinsman, Noel DeGracia, Davin Felicin, Elijah Santos.
Thank you, Representative Garrido. And your vice chair?
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, Maria De Lojan.
Thank you. Representative Richards, you're recognized. And after that, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to report the members and the vice chair of the Committee on Public and Municipal Affairs. Myself, Representative Javon Santos, Representative Byron Blas, Jewel Maige, Al Labang, Abriana Cruz, Kyle DeHelig, and Joshua DeChoso as vice chair.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to report as acting chairman of the Committee on Economic Development, Labor and Tourism. For our committee, we have Chairman Mantanani, myself as vice chairman, Representative Pareda, Representative De Lojan, and, oh, sorry. That's all I can report right now.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Kennedy. Representative DeHelig, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to report the members a part of the Committee on Land and Environment. The vice chair is Representative Santos, and Representative LeBang, Representative Roque, Representative Felicin, Representative Trinidad, Representative Garrido, Representative Valencia, and myself included.
Thank you, Representative DeHelig. Representative Quintanilla, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to report the members of the Committee on Health and Human Services and Gender Affairs. I have Cabrini Uggan as my vice chairman, Stephanie Lorenzo, Janae Pareda, Travis Blas, Noel DeGracia, DeMarco Caneni, and Lauren Dinsum, and myself, of course. I would also like to report the members of the Committee on Culture and Chamorro Affairs. I have Abriana Cruz as my vice chairman, Kyle DeHelig, Casey Rosario, DeMarco Caneni, Jacob Richards, Vizenci Plas Tahiran, Al Labang, and myself. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Quintanilla. Any other chairpersons? Representative Maiga, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to report the roster for a Committee on Military Affairs and Homeland Security. It's Representative LeBang, Representative Trinidad as Vice Chair, Representative Uggan, Representative Lorenzo, Representative Travis Blas, Representative Isabel Valencia, and Representative Richards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Maige. Other chairpersons? Representative De Lojan, you're recognized.
So I'd like to report the Committee on Taxation and General Government Operations. So I'm serving as the current chair, Byron Blas is vice chair. I also have Noel Brandon DeGracia, Al Labang, Keandra McDonald, DeMarco Kineni, Casey Rosario, and Javen Santos.
Thank you, Representative DeLohan. Is that all the committees? Okay. Moving on to reports of select committees, and there are none, so we'll move down the next item. Introduction and first reading of bills and resolutions. Can I call on the recording secretary, please?
Bill number 1-32, as amended by the Committee on Rules, introduced by Al Edrich C. Labang. An act to add new subsections 12122 and 12123 to Chapter 12, Title 17, Guam Code Annotated, relative to requiring certification for Guam Academy Charter Schools teachers, and to cite this act as teacher employment in charter schools. Resolution number 3-32, introduced by Committee on Land and Environment, relative to expressing Congression Manhoban Guahan support of Bill number 379-34 COR, introduced in Imini 34 na legislatura en Guahan, the 34th Guam Legislature. Resolution number 4-32, as amended by the Committee on Rules, introduced by Tristan Xavier Quintanilla, relative to urging the government of Guam to take measures to make abortion services readily available and convenient to the people of Guam, and to acknowledging the availability of abortion services as a crucial public good.
Thank you, Ms. Maravilla. We're now in motions. Representative Labang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I make a motion to place Resolution 1-32 to the session agenda. It's not in here, but with the 3/4 vote, we can do it.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 1-32 on the session agenda. Now this is would be a motion to amend the session agenda, so this would require a 3/4 vote of the body. So there's a motion. Are there any objections to place resolution number 1-32 on the session agenda? Are there any objections? There's been an objection? Oh, okay. Representative Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This isn't necessarily an objection. I just wanted, for the sake of the body, for Representative Labang to tell us what Resolution 1 is, if you wouldn't mind.
Representative Labang, do you yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Resolution 1 is extending the membership of the committee membership, because I think there's only one committee open, and I think Representative Abel Duenas and Representative Zachary Pierre-Paul is not in any of them, with the one that's reported today. So I think with moving this resolution, it will open other committees and let them select on which committee they want to be in.
So on that motion, are there any objections? None? Okay, so ordered. Resolution number 1-32 has been placed on the session agenda. If I could get the Sergeant at Arms to get the copies for that, but we'll deal with that later. Okay. Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I also make a motion to place Resolution 2-32 onto the session agenda.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 2-32 on the session agenda. Representative Kennedy, if you could state the title of that resolution, please.
Resolution 2-32 was a resolution to create a permanent select committee on media relations and outreach. It was basically to give the Guam Youth Congress an internal communications department.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. On that motion, are there any objections? There's been an objection by Representative Labang. Let's vote. On the motion to place resolution number 2-32 on the session agenda, please raise your hand. Motion fails. Are there any other motions? Representative Labang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make motion to excuse member not present today.
There's been a motion to excuse members not present today. Are there any objections? An objection by Representative DeLohan. All those in favor of excusing members not present today, please raise your hand. Motion passes. Are there any other motions? Representative Labang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to place Bill 1-32 to second reading file to be discussed by this body.
There's been a motion to place resolution or bill number 1-32 on the second reading file to be discussed. Are there any objections? None? So ordered. You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker and my fellow representatives, the charter school law was passed in 2009, and it became an avenue for fully funded charter school to operate on the island. However, it came to my attention that charter schools are able to hire teachers that are not certified nor qualified to teach at all. Research has shown that the correlation of student achievement with well-qualified teachers and high-quality teaching is true. This was supported by the National Commission on Teaching and America's Future, NCTAF, in the survey of David Hasselcoin and Lewis Harris, 1998, showed that 9 out of 10 Americans believe the best way to lift student achievement is to ensure qualified teacher in every classroom. Other research and works that prove that qualification of teachers is important in educators are the study of Ronald F. Ferguson, 1991, Cynthia Ann Trova, and Ronald D. Anderson, 1983, that shed light on the variable that teacher quality in science instruction. G.W. McMurray et al., 1989, concluded on the basis of research that teachers' subject matter, understanding, and their way of teaching and decision critically influence the quality of teaching. And P. Hawk et al., 1985, concluded that certification requirements are effective mechanism to assure higher student achievement. We all know that Guam, being a melting pot of cultural diversity, it is essential to have teachers be certified and trained for those students that are coming from different cultures. We all acknowledge that charter schools are independent, but we all agree that the fact that it is fully funded by the government of Guam. We also know that the funds are not sufficient enough, but the bottom line is simple. It is the duty of the government of Guam to provide a high quality of teaching and education to its students and its youth. Students that enters and exit through the doors of those schools could be someone who stands in this legislative hall, someone who works in ADLU serving our people. Charter school prepare the future of this island, the youth, which are the leaders of tomorrow, as you, Mr. Speaker, have alluded to. We might argue that funding is a problem, but this feels compromised by allowing charter school to hire a non-certified teacher but must obtain a certification within 5 years. My fellow representative and Mr. Speaker, the Guam Federation of Teachers president have given his support to this measure. Before I close this opening statement, let us reflect with the Nelson Mandela quote, "Education is the most powerful tool to change the world." Let us all invest to the future of this island. Charter school opens its door to educate the ones who would make changes for this island. In closing, Mr. Speaker and my fellow representative, I urge you to vote in favor of this measure. Malcolm X once said, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare it today." As what you said again, Mr. Speaker, in your inaugural address, tomorrow starts today.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. On the main motion, any representative would like to speak? Representative DeLohan, you're recognized. And then Speaker Santos.
I just have a question for Representative Labang. So how much of the appropriations from GDOE are being used for charter schools at this very moment? I know that it may not seem as if it relates to the bill he's representing, but I feel as though it's important for all the representatives to be aware of how much the appropriations are being used for charter schools.
Okay, let's hold. Representative LeBang, do you yield to the question?
One moment.
What are you doing? Oh.
It's like fixing something.
Representative LeBang, do you yield to the question?
Yes, I yield to the question, Mr. Speaker.
okay.
However, I don't have the data on how much do they get appropriation.
Let's hold.
Probably.
Let's hold.
Yeah.
Representative DeLohan, you may repeat your question.
So my question is, how much of the appropriations from GDOE are being used for charter schools?
Representative LeBang.
I believe charter school gets their own appropriation. It's not from GDOE. And I'm so sorry, Mr. Speaker, I don't have the figure right now of how much they have.
Does that satisfy your question? Representative DeLohan.
I actually have the answer to the question.
Okay.
So as of 2018, according to GDOE, they actually spent $10.4 million out of their budget. And I know this doesn't really mean much to a lot of you guys, but a part of me feels as though that the money being used for charter schools kind of hinders the performance of our current schools within the Guam Department of Education. And I say this because we already have shortfalls in regards to financial aspects, such as renovations and programs. And at the end of the day, I guess the question is, how much would this cost to actually be implemented, if it were to be implemented, to ensure that teachers in charter schools are certified? That's my question to Representative LeBang.
Representative LeBang, do you yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. My answer will be, I think they have their own staffs already, so I don't think it's much big a problem. It's just matter, they have like their head of their operations, like their principal. I think their principal can address it with their staff. It's just not, I don't think there gonna be anything that's gonna, like additional funding, I don't think is necessary. And in page 6, line, it says here that, where's that at? It says here that they will get the certification at the expense of the teacher. It's not at the expense of charter school. Hope that answers your question, Mr. Speaker.
Representative DeLohan.
Just another question for Representative LeBang.
Do you yield, Representative LeBang?
Yes.
May continue.
So, do you think this bill has the possibility of hindering the, I guess, the motivation and the aspiration for future teachers to go to GDOE rather than teaching in charter schools, because there is already a shortage within GDOE? So to have certified teachers in charter schools, do you think that hinders the possibility of future teachers for GDOE?
Representative LeBang.
I don't think so, because GDOE requires their teacher to be certified and able to teach in their schools. So public school have certified teachers. So I don't think it hinders it.
Representative DeLohan, you may continue on the main motion.
That will be all.
Okay, thank you. Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
I also have a question for Representative Labang, Mr. Speaker, if he would yield.
Representative Labang, do you yield?
I yield.
My question is more along in terms of the flexibility that the charter schools have according to law. One of the great things about charter schools that we've seen is that charter schools tend to focus on differing subjects, and they tend to go beyond the curriculum of GDOE and expand into different subjects. And with that, you require a certain subject matter expert in order to facilitate that unique education system. So with that, my question is, do you have any concerns about the flexibility that the charter schools currently have that allows them to teach unique and differing curriculums? And do you worry that this bill will hinder that flexibility that they currently have?
To answer that question, I don't think it will hinder it because charter school can go to the Guam Certification Board and ask them to create a certification for them, generally for their charter school. And like if they want to add other subjects, they can do so as well. I just spoke with Mr. Jonathan Polarca, a member of the board, about that.
Does that satisfy your question, Speaker Santos?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You may continue.
So with that being said, I would like to thank Representative Labang for all the research that he put into this bill. I think that this bill shows great compromise in how this certification would go into place. This 5-year, the 5 years that the charter school teachers are allotted in order to get the certification, I feel is reasonable to for these teachers to achieve. And I personally don't think that it hinders the flexibility, because with that long period of time, those teachers can work with the students and work with their expertise and have that 5 years in order to get the certification. I also do agree with the intent of the bill, because I feel as though because these schools are funded by GDOE, I feel that there should be a certain amount of consistency across the board with public schools and charter schools. So having this certification for charter schools, combined with the fact that it is a reasonable time period for these teachers to achieve this certification, Mr. Speaker, I support the bill, and I asked my colleagues to do so as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. Representative Felician, you're recognized.
I'd like to pose a question towards Representative Labang.
Representative Labang, do you yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You may continue, Representative Felician.
Can you specify and or clarify what is and what are academy charter schools?
Academy charter schools are charter schools, like it specifically states in the law, like they are independent, but they are funded by the government. So those are charter school. I'm just amending the charter school law. I'm not adding anything. So, yeah.
Representative Felician, does that satisfy your question?
Can I have an example of one specific charter school?
I Learn Charter Academy, GACS, Guahan Academy Charter School is another one, and I believe there's another one. I'm not sure what the name is. There's only 3 right now in On Island right now.
Does that satisfy your question, Representative Felician?
Yes.
You may continue. On the main motion. Is that all?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would be all,
Felice.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do like the intent of this bill. Education bills were one of my favorite things to talk about in the 30th Guam Youth Congress because it gets us all involved. You know, we all feel that education is important to us, especially as the youth. However, I do see, as I was looking through this bill, I do see a couple of things that are kind of glaring to me. And it puts me kind of in opposition with former Speaker Santos. I believe the 5 years that are allotted for you to get your certification is way too much. 5 years is 1 or 2 high school classes graduating without a certified teacher. I feel that period is way too long to be, you know, waiting to get a final certification that we want required of our teachers. To that, I would make an amendment. I would like to make an amendment to this bill. I know we have forms for that, so is that something
You can
I
state
have
your
to-
amendment, Representative Kennedy.
Okay, my amendment would be to change, was it on page 6, line 6? The non-certified educator must take necessary action at their own expense to get a teaching certificate and be certified in the Guam Commission for Educator Certification in the span of 2 years. I believe 2 years is reasonable considering that most teacher, in GDOE, the teacher 1 position is someone who is a student who is about to graduate, and they give them an allotment of 1.5 to 2 years to finish the degree and to be totally certified before they're considered a school teacher 2, which is an official teacher for GDOE.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. On the amendment to change 5 years to 2 years, on page 6, line 6, are there any? Okay, Representative Richards, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to express my support for the amendment because I also feel that 5 years is a bit excessive. I think it's a little too much time to allow people to get the certification. However, I think 2 years might be a little too soon, so I'd like to propose an amendment to the amendment to make it 3 years.
On the amendment to the amendment to replace it from 2 years to 3 years. Okay, Representative Lebang, you're recognized.
I do agree with the Vice Speaker with 3 years. I think 2 years is too soon as well. And I just made it 5 years because GFT gave me that number because I'm coordinating with them as well. But 3 years, I'm in favor of that. So just to say that you can take the teacher's certification test even though you're in high school still, even in middle school. There's no certain age for that, so I agree with 3 years.
On the amendment to the amendment, Representative Kennedy.
I actually agree with Vice Speaker Richards. I can withdraw my amendment to allow his to pass for 3 years.
That would be out of order. We'll just take care of the amendment to the amendment. Yeah. On the amendment to change it from 2 years to 3 years. Are there any objections? So ordered. Okay, so now the amendment is to change it from 5 years to 3 years. Are there any representatives who would like to speak on the amendment? If none, are there any objections to the amendment? None? So ordered. On the main motion, we can go back to Representative Kennedy.
Okay, that takes care of one of the items I was looking at. My other thing was, I agree with Representative Dolohan. I believe there is a massive shortage of certified teachers here on island. GDOE, private schools, they all in competition to get, educated, certified teachers. So what this bill does, it places the same requirements on the charter school, right? And I wholeheartedly agree our teachers should be certified. However, GDOE does use a large amount of uncertified teachers. Private schools do use an amount of uncertified teachers. And I'm not saying anything about, uncertified teachers being, unqualified to be teachers. I've had some amazing teachers who have just had bachelor degrees and had no teaching certificate, and they were one of the best teachers in my high school years. So one of my things with this bill is I'm not against it at all. That's not my position. I'm just saying that, you know, with the shortage of teachers on island, is this bill really feasible for the charter schools to also be demanding the same requirements as every other school on island?
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. On the main motion, any other representative who would like to speak? Representative or Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like some clarification. If the author of the bill would yield.
Do you yield, Representative LeBang?
Yes.
Just on the last section, section 4 for enactment, the last two words after enactment, so it reads, the provisions of this act shall become effective at the start of the following academic year after enactment. That seems, enactment to me means shall become effective, so the way I'm comprehending this sentence is it shall become effective after it becomes effective, if that makes sense. So I'd like to propose an amendment for it to perhaps say...
Point of order was a question.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So is that what you meant when you wrote this?
If you want to amend it, you can.
Okay.
It's just like a matter of grammatical things.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So I'd just like to propose an amendment to change a strikeout after enactment and replace it with, or strikeout enactment and replace it with passing. Unless there's a more appropriate word.
After passing.
After passing? After.
Could you please state your amendment again, Vice Speaker Richards?
The lines 22 and 23 will read, the provisions of this act shall become effective at the start of the following academic year after passing.
Passage.
After passage.
Okay, so the amendment is to strike out after enactment, after enactment, and to replace it with after passage. On the amendment, are there any representatives who would like to speak? Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
This is just a point of inquiry for you, actually, Mr. Speaker. Wouldn't this technically be striking the enacting clause of the bill?
Let's clarify with the parliamentarian.
This is just a question, so I'm a little rusty.
The enactment clause is, as I'm told, is the first line of page 1, being enacted by the youth of Guam.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Kineni. Right now, okay, on the amendment, if we replace it to after passage, passage is the actions of the body. Enactment is when it becomes law and when it's signed into law by the governor. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the. It just reads weird.
That's what that's what I was asking when I was asking the author of the bill if to clarify what he meant by that, if I didn't make that clear. Yeah, what does it mean? If it makes legislative sense, then I will withdraw the amendment. I just want to clarify that it does.
Representative Lebang, you're recognized.
I will say enactment will be after the bill is signed into law.
Okay.
Because whatever bills we pass here goes to the legislature, and from legislature it goes to the governor's desk.
Okay.
If we put passage in here, it means if we pass this today, then it will be effective.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion for a recess.
On that motion, are there any objections? So ordered. We're back in session. Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to make an amendment to my amendment and have the last line read, line 23 read, the start of the following academic year, and to cross out after passage.
Okay. So the amendment would read, the provisions of this act shall become effective at the start of the following academic year, period. On that amendment, are there any representatives who would like to speak? If none, are there any objections? None? So ordered. Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Thank you for that. I'd just like to also express my support for the bill. I think it is very important to have certified teachers in the classroom. And however, it takes some time, and we're on a shortage of teachers, certified teachers. And this provision that allows them time to get that certification will help staff our classrooms. And I think this is a good bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. Any other representative who wishes to speak? Representative Quintanilla, you're recognized.
I would like to speak in support of this bill. I support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Quintanilla. On the main motion.
I just concur with Lawrence. He said to change section 4 instead of enactment, put effective date instead of enactment. I'll make a motion to amend it into effective date.
Please state your amendment, Representative Lebang.
Page 6, line 22, section 4, to change the word enactment to effective date.
On that amendment, are there any representatives who wish to speak? Representative Byron Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to pose a question to Representative LeBang.
Representative Lang, do you yield?
Yes.
I'd just like to clarify. I'm a bit confused here. We're changing the title of Section 4, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, that's all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Byron Blas. On the amendment, are there any objections? If none, so ordered. On the main motion, are there any representatives who wish to speak? Representative Byron Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to share my sentiments with my fellow representatives in support of this bill. Education is a very powerful tool, which all of us use and are just going through today in regards to our high school and college years. I'd like to commend Representative LeBang for presenting figures as his legislative findings in order to make this bill solid. I'd like to thank Representatives Kaneni, Richards, and Representative LeBang for making sure that the amendments to this bill make sure it doesn't sound redundant and to make it more solid. There are disparities in our education today. I mean, of course, there are a few exceptions, but to keep in mind that parents want to find alternatives for their child's education. Not every student is going to be in the public school system. That's why we have charter schools and private school systems. And with this bill, I think it will be a first step in order to ensure that the alternatives to education here on Guam are sound and that teachers are qualified in order to ensure that every child and every person can have an effective school system. And this could actually open doors to ensure that not only charter schools are effective, but also to ensure the regulation of public schools as well, since there are uncertified teachers, even for private schools as well. So I'd just like to say that I support this bill wholeheartedly. I'd like to ask my fellow representatives to do so as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Byron Blas. On the main motion, on Bill number 1-32, are there any other representatives who wish to speak? If none, Representative LeBang, you're invited to close.
Thank you for my colleagues that made those amendments, and I humbly ask for your support on this bill. I just want to recognize a few people that helped me put this bill together. Dr. Dean Ola of School of Education, he's an associate professor. Mr. Sanjay Sharma, President of Guam Federation of Teachers, the GFT. Mr. Jonathan Polarco, Board Member of Guam Commission for Educators Certification. And I want to repeat this quote again. Education is the most powerful tool to change the world. And I hope that everyone supports this bill.
Thank you, Representative LeBang.
And I make a motion to place it to third reading file for voting.
On the motion to place Bill number 1-32 on the third reading file, are there any objections? If none, so ordered. We're back in motions. Representative Kaneni, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to move Resolution 1-32 into the second reading file.
I object.
Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
I think the Resolution 1-32 should be talked last because I need to prepare for this resolution still.
So
And I just finished one whole bill.
Is that a motion to set it aside?
To set aside and be talked at the end of the rest of the agenda.
Okay, on that motion, are there any objections? None, so ordered. We're back in motions. Yeah. Representative Dahilig, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to place Resolution 03-32 into the second reading file for discussion.
On the motion to place Resolution 3-32 on the second reading file, are there any objections? If none, so ordered. You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hafade and good morning, I Congression, Manhoban Guahan, and the island of Guam. Not too long ago, Guam Youth Congress made monumental history by successfully passing a bill that was responded by the Guam legislature. Bill 242-34, introduced by the Committee on Rules, approved by the 31st Guam Youth Congress, was instrumental in passing Senator Regine Bisco Lee's bill 268-34, Choose to Reuse Munga Maatik I Plastic, which is now public law. I was there to witness Guam 31st Youth Congress Speaker Javen deliver testimony in support of the bills to ban plastic bags on behalf of the Guam Youth Congress. I was also there to deliver my testimony and voice my support as well. Public Law 34-110 incentivizes the use of reusable bags over one-time use plastic carryout bags, and in about 2 years, prohibits retailers and restaurants from distributing plastic carryout bags to consumers. Senators voted unanimously to ban the distribution of plastic bags, such as this. This initiative mirrors bans already passed in 3 other U.S. territories: Palau, the Marshall Islands, Yap, Fiji, and other states and countries. You made that possible. Today, I ask for your continued support by voting in favor of the Committee on Land and Environment's Resolution 03-32 in support of Senator Fernando Barcinas Esteves' Bill 379-34, which aims to ban the sale of polystyrene foam containers and the use of these containers in serving prepared food, the typical to-go containers that one asks for when she or he wants to balutan. Today, my papa and I stopped by before session to eat. It was my breakfast for the day. Sadly, the only available container was this. Single-use polystyrene containers were the only containers available, but expanded polystyrene foam is not recycled on Guam and either ends up in landfills or elsewhere. Because polystyrene foam is non-biodegradable, it takes about 500 years to decompose. This single-use disposable container is harmful and polluting to the environment. According to research published on Science Reports, the most abundant microplastics polymers found in marine surface waters are low-density polyolefins and polystyrene. When this enters the ecosystem by improper disposal, polystyrene foams break down into microplastics that disrupt the food chain. Such as this. When we eat this, we eat the microplastics that live inside the fish. According to National Geographic, scientists have found microplastics in 114 aquatic species, and more than half of those end up on our dinner plates. Pretty soon, we might see packaging that warns us might contain microplastics and traces of peanuts and soy. By supporting our resolution to tackle microplastics by banning polystyrene, we take another step closer in preserving our environment and protecting sea life. I ask and urge you, sisters and brothers, to vote in support of Resolution 03-32. Let the world know that the youth of Guam continues to support the environment. Sujus Masi, maraming salamat po, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Dahilig. On the main motion, are there any representatives who wish to speak? Representative Labang, you're recognized, and then Representative Quintanilla.
Mr. Speaker and my fellow representative, despite of President Trump not believing in climate change, even though extensive research has shown its effects, making expanded polystyrene produces greenhouse gases that eventually emitted to the atmosphere. The warming of the world and causing the ice caps to melt, the ocean rising, we as an island shall be alarmed. Most islands have a low elevation, so when the ocean rises, we are the first ones to experience it. Also, we only have one landfill that operates in our island and where polystyrene ends up. So if we ban styrofoam, it deters the time that we will need another landfill. Therefore, I support this resolution, and I urge my colleagues to support it as well. That's all.
Thank you, Representative Labang. Representative Quintanilla, you're recognized.
As it is commonly known, the Chamorro culture highly values the maintenance of the natural environment. Therefore, as chairman of the Committee on Culture and Chamorro Affairs, I would like to express support for this resolution on behalf of my committee. That is all.
Thank you, Representative Quintanilla. Representative Kineni, you're recognized. Sorry.
It's okay, Mr. Speaker. I would like to express my support of Resolution 3-32. I believe, this is one of the issues that Guam Youth Congress has always been up and coming about is the environment. I supported this bill when it first came out. I was not able to attend the public hearing because I was a little busy, but I did support it and I saw it all the way through, or I'm seeing it all the way through. On behalf of the Committee of Economic Development, Labor, and Tourism, I believe this also does benefit the island in that way because of the beautification of the island. Tourism is heavily dependent on our island being clean, and with the removal of, polystyrene and other non-biodegradable materials, it makes it easier to clean up the island and ban harmful materials that would be bad for our environment here. Thank you. Thank you to the Committee on Land and Environment for introducing this resolution, especially Chairman Dahilig. And I again express my full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kineni. On the main motion, are there any? Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
I have a question for Representative Dahilig, if he would yield.
Do you yield, Representative Dahilig?
So the resolution doesn't really talk about or doesn't go into detail about the bill itself and how the policy of banning styrofoam would go into effect. One of from my understanding of the bill, one of the stipulations is that unless you have a permit that proves that you are a business that no longer uses styrofoam, it urges the Department of Land and Waste Management to increase your garbage bill basically by 30%. Does the committee worry, as chairman of the committee that sponsored this bill, does the committee worry that the businesses who will have to absorb that 30% increase would cause prices of goods to increase on Guam?
Mr. Speaker, could he clarify his question?
Speaker Santos.
One of the aspects of the bill is the increasing of the garbage fee if they do not have a permit that says that they no longer use styrofoam. Does the committee have any concerns that this will cause a rise in the cost of goods in Guam?
Regarding the concern of pricing, because of the surcharge of 30% increase, there are alternatives for cheaper sourcing of containers would be like disposable stuff, like cardboard, or not cardboard, but some other disposable container.
Does that satisfy your question, Speaker Santos?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to reserve the rest of my time to make testimony later.
Okay. On the main motion, Representative Dichoso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to begin by saying that I fully support this bill or resolution. I would like to say that this is an important step to take in protecting the environment. And as representatives of the youth, this is one of our biggest issues when looking at issues that the youth care about the most. It's at the very top, you see environmental issues. That being said, with my support for the bill being clear, I would like to pose a question to Representative Dahilig.
Chairman Dahilig, would you like to?
Chairman.
Do you yield? Okay. Please state your question.
Right. So one concern that I do have over the bill or resolution is this, or at least the intent of I do commend him for bringing up statistics and showing examples. But for the sake of the body and for everybody's clarification, one of the issues with using these materials that businesses commonly use is that it's cheap for them to use, and it's usually something that's cost effective. And for many businesses, small businesses especially, this is something that is their only option to use, if that makes sense. So the question I would like to ask for Representative Dahilig is what other options could small businesses pursue? I'll just stand here.
Chairman Dahilig.
Mr. Speaker, could I direct the question to Representative LeBang?
I think you'd have to answer his question first.
I'm sorry?
You'd have to answer Representative Dichoso's question first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could I ask for a recess?
Okay. There's a motion to recess. So ordered. We're back in session. Representative Dahilig.
Mr. Speaker, to answer Representative Dichoso's questions, some alternatives to polystyrene containers. I have with me, can I zoom in? Yeah, okay. So, sorry. alternative paper-based containers. I found this on Alibaba.com. So there's the wholesale eco-friendly 3-commodity microwave clamshell container, a compostable 2-compartment, and a compostable disposable container, biodegradable, for examples. Yeah.
Does that satisfy your question, Representative Dichoso?
Yes, that does satisfy my question. May I continue my?
Yes.
So the reason I asked that question to highlight the other options that there are for small businesses to utilize was to show that support for this, the resolution and support for the bill is not something that is harmful to small businesses and is actually something that'll help the environment while at the same time offer other options for small businesses to use. So once again, I support this resolution, and I hope my fellow representatives do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dichoso. On the main motion, are there any other representatives who wish to speak? Speaker Santos?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Vice Chairman of the committee, during the committee meeting, we really worked hard in trying to make sure that we not only understood the bill as well as possible that we are supporting, but also recognize the potential impacts. And that's why I ask all my fellow representatives on behalf of the committee to support this resolution. One of the things that the bill does is defines in law what is appropriate or what are the proper materials to use in these types of takeout containers. And there are, in the law itself, the alternatives to the styrofoam are already accorded into law. If you look at the bill 379, it includes cardboard and paper as well as reusable plastic containers. So not only does this bill have the not only does this bill that the resolution is supporting have potential to reduce microplastics, but it also has the potential to reduce waste in general by promoting reusable containers as an option, and to maybe that could create a sort of alternative to disposable takeout, to takeout very similar to how many people are now treating items like plastic straws, where you bring your container to take out. In working on the bill to introduce the plastic bag ban on Guam, I was able to talk to environmentalists and many who support these communities, such as Ms. Peggy Denny. And when I introduced the bill, I met Ms. Peggy Denny at the public hearing, and she told me, you guys need to tackle styrofoam next, because styrofoam, not only does it not biodegrade in the way that paper or cardboard would, but because we live on a Pacific Ocean, or because we live near the Pacific, because we live on the ocean where so much of our wildlife can be impacted, and like Chairman DeHelig mentioned, so much could impact us as individuals through the fish that we eat. And living on a Pacific island, fish is important to many of us. And if we should take the steps as a community to make sure the fish within our waters, at least the fish that we are going to consume ourselves, have as little danger to be exposed to these microplastics as possible. So with that being said, Mr. Speaker, I fully support the resolution of my chairperson. I thank Senator Estevez for introducing this bill, and I hope that the body sees the merit in protecting in banning styrofoam is not only good for the environment, but it's good for the health of the people of Guam and for the health of people in general as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. On the main motion. Representative Garrido, you recognized. And then Vice Speaker Richards.
I would like to, sorry. I do share the same sentiments with Representative Santos, Javen Santos, but I still would like to take this time to also support my advocacy for Bill number 379-34 and as an extension, Resolution 3-34. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Garrido. Vice Speaker Richards, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I won't take too long, just a little fun fact for everybody. During my research when I was helping Speaker Santos with the plastic bag bill, I communicated with the Bureau of Statistics and Plans with the Guam Coastal Management Program, who chairs the island-wide coastal cleanup, and I was looking at the data here, and from 2016 alone, there was 6,779 styrofoam pieces found throughout the island, and that's just one day. And that's not including the styrofoam pieces that end up in our landfills. This is just randomly throughout the island along the coast, not including dump sites in the jungle. So just a little fun fact for you guys. I'd like to express my support for the resolution and for Bill 379. Thank you.
That is a fun fact. Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. Representative Maige, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to express my support for Resolution 3-32. As the future of our island, it's very important that we show that we're caring for our environment and the wildlife here on Guam. It's also important that we show we're aware what's going on in the world. And so it's known that pollution is a very big problem, not here just on our island, but worldwide. So by supporting this resolution, our island is taking a step into a better environment-friendly world. So I kindly ask my fellow representatives to support this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Maige. On the main motion, are there any other representatives who wish to speak? If none, Chairman Dahilig, you're invited to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Only together we will make a profound statement. By supporting the Committee on Land and Environment's Resolution 03-32, we will continue our path together to reject the throwaway culture and adopt a more eco-friendly lifestyle. I urge you, sisters and brothers, to think for the future and to support the resolution. Suzus maasi, maraming salamat po, and thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dahilig. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to place Resolution 03-32 into the third reading file.
On the motion to place resolution number 3-32 in the third reading file, are there any objections? If none, so ordered. Back in motions. Representative Quintanilla, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to place resolution number 4-32 in the second reading file.
On the motion to place resolution number 4-32 on the second reading file, are there any objections? If none, so ordered. You may continue, Representative Quintanilla.
This fall semester for 2018, I took a social work class at the University of Guam, and I learned about the many misconceptions that regard the topic of social work. One lesson I learned in that class was that making medical services regarding safe sex available increases the I'm sorry, I'll just set aside that thought. Making abortion services available is a social good. That is all.
Thank you, Representative Quintanilla. On the main motion, Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Please state your amendment.
Changing line 14 of page 1, which says, hereby acknowledges the availability of abortion services as a crucial public good. My amendment is to change it to, hereby acknowledges the availability of abortion services as a viable option. Reason being is, so according to the New Oxford Dictionary, the abortion is defined as the deliberate determination of a human pregnancy, most often performed during the first 28 weeks of pregnancy. And then to specify in biology, it's the arrest of the development of an organ, typically as a seed or fruit. So I do think that because it's in law, you know, abortion, we do need to procure someone, being that it should be available to the people, but I don't see the need for the government to acknowledge that it is a crucial public good.
On the amendment, to strike crucial public good and replace it with viable option, are there any members who wish to speak? Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with Representative Tyrant. I believe that, you know, the wording is not, it isn't worded the right way in terms of this resolution. I believe services are viable options, yes, but to consider them as a crucial public good would be an overstatement of the services provided. Thank you.
On the amendment, are there any other members who wish to speak? Representative Byron Bloss, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also agree with Representative Tyron's amendment to change it to being a viable option. I also state the fact that as a Catholic representing a Catholic school, I am with pro-life. I stand that way, so I cannot and will not support this bill. I know that this is a political body, but morally speaking, I cannot stand with this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Bloss. On the amendment, any members who wish to speak? If none, are there any objections to the amendment? If none, so ordered. Representative Tyron, we're back to you. Yeah.
So I stated why I chose to make the amendment, and
okay, was that all?
Yes, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
On the main motion, any members who wish to speak? Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
I just want to impose question to the main sponsor if he would yield.
Representative Quintanilla, do you yield to the question? Do you yield to the question? Do you yield to the question?
I apologize. Yes.
Okay.
In page 1, line 4, how is it a dangerous state that a practitioner is retiring? I just don't get the point of that whereas clause.
The danger I'm referring to is leaving Guam without the availability of abortion services.
Okay, but is there like any other option besides that is like available? We only have one provider.
Could you please repeat yourself?
Is there only like one provider here on Guam?
There are no providers here on Guam.
No providers at all?
Currently.
Currently, because of this retirement?
Yes.
Would you mind adding his name? Because like, it just says his. and I don't know who you're preferring to. It's just like kind of off if we just leave it as is.
Are you asking to
Please
make
address
an-
the chair. Please address the chair.
Oh, yes. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to pose a question to, not Speaker, Representative LeBang.
Let's address Representative LeBang's question first. What was
Okay,
your question?
Let me repeat my question. So my question is, who are you referring to with the statement, his retirement? Because it doesn't state any person in this resolution.
Representative Quintanilla.
Oh, okay. I decided to omit the name of the abortion provider without his consent because I did not feel it was prudent to bring him into this resolution. Him being the only abortion provider in Guam was enough, in my mind.
Does that satisfy your question, Representative LeBang?
Yeah, but like, I feel that we should add the name because like, it feels off if we just leave it as is, who is his.
If you want to add the name,
I
please
don't
make an
know
amendment.
who's the person he's referring to, that's why.
Are you opposing an amendment? Representative LeBang.
What is the name of the person? Can I ask him again?
Representative Quintanilla.
I can provide you with his name. I apologize, I got it from a Guampedian article. I don't have it memorized.
Jacob.
I apologize for the wait. His name was Dr. William Freeman.
Thank you. Now I make a motion to amend line 4, page 1, to change his to Dr. What's the name again? What's the name again? To change his to Dr. William Freeman. Dr. William Freeman's retirement.
Representative Quintanilla, could you please spell the last name?
Freeman.
Thank you. And that's William, right?
Correct.
Thank you, Representative Quintanilla. Representative LeBang, you may continue. On the amendment.
On the amendment. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we pass
On the
it
amendment,
first?
are there any members who wish to speak? Representative Speaker Santos, and then Representative Kineni.
I have a question for the sponsor of the amendment.
Representative LeBang, do you yield? Representative LeBang, do you yield to the question?
Yes.
In the committee meeting, as this resolution was amended by the Committee on Rules, the sponsor talked about his apprehensions with placing blame on the doctor himself, and that was the discussion that led to his to the doctor's name not being put on the resolution. Now that you sponsored this amendment, do you have any concerns that this resolution will be interpreted as blaming this doctor for retirement and leaving the island of Guam without this crucial or this service?
Representative LeBang.
Actually, let me change my amendment. I'll withdraw my first amendment if that's possible.
Okay.
I'm gonna change it with the current provider's retirement leaves the people in a dangerous state in which abortion services are not readily available.
So you're replacing his with
With the current providers, if
With- okay.
that satisfy.
So the amendment is to read on line 4, page 1, whereas with the current provider's retirement leaves, am I correct with that reading? Representative
Yeah,
Lee?
because even though it has the word his, it will say still blame as a male, right? If I'm correct.
Okay, on the amendment, any members who wish to speak? Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with Representative Quintanilla and former Speaker Santos when it comes to naming the blame on certain people, and with the new amendment also. I feel it's just redundant. In the beginning, we already said the only practicing abortion provider on Guam retired, and then it says, whereas his retirement leaves the people in a dangerous state. I believe it is fully, explained who we are talking about. We don't need to add any extra, words to explain, the only abortion provider on Guam left. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. On the amendment, any other members who wish to speak? Representative Dahilig, you're recognized. And
Mr. Speaker, I wish to make an amendment to page 1, line 4. Oh, I'm sorry.
on the amendment,
On the amendment. Okay, I withdraw mine.
okay. That's okay. Any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? If none, are there any, Representative Maige, you're recognized. On the amendment, Representative Maige.
I'd like to make an amendment on page 1, line 1. There's a typo.
Oh,
in
okay.
resolve.
Let's deal with the amendment first,
Yes.
and then I'll call you again when we're on the main motion. Yeah.
Thank you.
On the amendment, are there any objections? There's been an objection. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. Motion fails. We're back on the main motion. Representative Maige, you're recognized. And then Representative Dahilig.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make an amendment on line 1, page 1 of the resolution. There's a typo in the word resolved. It would read, line 1 would read, be it resolved by E-Congressman Manhobin Guahan.
Could you please repeat it? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The amendment, or my amendment would read, be it resolved, because there's a typo.
Oh, I see.
Be it resolved by E-Congressman Manhobin Guahan.
Mr. Speaker, point of order. I think I still have the floor. Right? With that with my amendment, making an amendment, and yeah.
You're correct. That's right. Okay. We'll deal with the amendment later.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Lebag.
I have another question to the main sponsor of this resolution, if he would yield.
Do you yield, Representative Quintanilla?
May I please hear the question again?
Oh, he hasn't asked it yet. I'm just.
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Okay, do you have any statistic on how many people gets abortion here on Guam? Because like with leaving it as a dangerous state, I don't think it should be backed up with research and data.
I disagree. That is all.
Does that satisfy your question?
I'm sorry.
Does that satisfy your question?
I'm just asking him for data.
Do you have data? Representative Quintaniza.
I do not feel that it is prudent to my point, therefore, no. I will not provide any data.
Do you or do you not have data?
No.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I would like to say that I don't assume that many people on Guam will get abortions, but for those who do go through the emotional turmoil of making that decision, regardless of how few there are maybe, having this option available will be crucial.
Does that satisfy your question, Representative LeBang? Otherwise, you may continue.
Okay.
Thank you, Representative Quintaniza.
Mr. Speaker, I'm just curious with dangerous state and with that clause in this resolution, because we cannot say we're in a dangerous state without proving it in this resolution. Because I think with data and background, it will build up why we are in dangerous state if we lose abortion provider. That's why I keep asking something to back this up, because I don't know. So like, if we will leave it as is, and I'll be opposed in this resolution then.
Is that all, Representative LeBang?
Yes, that's all.
Okay. Representative Dahilig, and then Representative Maige, and then Representative DeLohan, and then Representative Tyron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to make an amendment on page 1, line 4, whereas the people in a dangerous state, to change it into an inconvenient, to amend the wording from dangerous state to an inconvenient state.
So just to clarify, the amendment is on page 1, line 4.
Page 1, line 4.
Striking out the word dangerous and replacing it with inconvenient.
Yes.
Okay.
Dangerous seems to, oh, do I have to explain?
Yes, please.
Okay.
If you wish.
Danger seems to be a bit extreme without the data to show how much we are in a dangerous state. And I feel like the word inconvenient would be more suitable of a term to use. And that's it.
Thank you, Representative Dahilig. On that amendment, Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to express my opposition to this amendment. I feel as though changing this section really goes against the intent of the resolution as a whole. I feel like I feel many people are worried about the stance that this resolution is going to make. However, that was the intention of the resolution in the first place, and to change the intention so drastically, I feel that I feel that this resolution should be discussed. I feel like this change is too dramatic to really call this resolution the same as it was before, and I'm worried that when people are that with this amendment, changing the dangerous state to an inconvenient state, the danger that the sponsor and many of us who have discussed this resolution in the committee have realized is this danger includes things like unsafe self-abortions. This danger includes things such as the type of life the life certain children will have in this situation where mother is not able to take care of them in the way that a mother should. And to change the word dangerous to inconvenient, the decision is not like waiting 2 hours at Rev and Tax. That's inconvenient. This is lives at risk with decisions like this. So I hope that the body realizes that this resolution, or this amendment, drastically undermines the concerns that this resolution is trying to address in the first place. So that's why I asked the body not to support this support this amendment to the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. On the amendment, Representative Tyron, you're recognized. Okay. Anyone else on the amendment? If not, Representative Maige.
Like I said earlier, I would like to make an amendment to line 1, or
We're still on the amendment. Yeah. When we go back to the main motion, yeah, I'll call you.
thank you.
Representative Dahilig, you may close on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To close off, I'd like to state that, well, without any backing or scientific, or any statistics regarding to explain why it would need to be labeled as a dangerous state, all the hypothetical outcomes of it being dangerous is not sufficient enough to consider it as dangerous, and therefore I would like to end that an inconvenient state would be a much more suitable term because of the lack of statistics and information.
Thank you, Representative Dahilig. On the amendment. He closed already. There's been an objection. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. Motion passes. Who made that amendment? Representative Dahilig. You're recognized. Representative Dahilig, did you have anything else? Did you have anything else? Okay. Moving on to Representative Maige. So sorry.
I'd like to apologize for earlier. So I'd like to amend line 1 of page 1, just a technical error, be it resolved by E-Congression Manhoban Guahan.
Okay. On the amendment, are there any objections? If none, so ordered. Thank you. Is that all, Representative Maige? Okay. Moving on to Representative De Lohan, you're recognized.
Am I still allowed to make an amendment?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to make an amendment on line 4 through 5, or line 4 through 5 on page 1.
Please state your amendment.
So the amendment would be the retirement leaves the woman of Guam in a dangerous state in which abortion services are not readily available of Guam. So just adding in woman of Guam, and I don't know if I'm able to do that, but going back to dangerous state. But if not, then that's okay, but I just want to put woman of Guam.
Right now it reads inconvenient
Okay.
state.
Okay.
So you're just replacing people with women of Guam.
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay.
And can I?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to say that I support Speaker Quintanilla in regards to this bill. I believe that Guam should do more efforts in establishing abortion clinics and doctors to execute the procedure of abortions for the women of Guam. And I believe that in regards to him stating that we don't need any data, I think we do need data, but I also support the fact that it does cause a danger towards those here in Guam, or women of Guam, especially in regards to socioeconomic status, those who are teenagers who are incapable of raising a child, and also the health issues that come with females, or women rather, that need to get abortions. And I believe that now more than ever, since our political climate is majority female, female governor, female majority within the legislature, I believe that this bill would have the support of the legislature and potentially the governor if given that opportunity. And I think it's very important, and I'm just saying that to our fellow representatives that this is very important, and I think that you should take this into great consideration, given that we are at an advantage in regards to political climate. And even though that it lacks data to support the claim, I think that it's a very good bill, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Thank you. On the amendment, any member who wishes to speak, Representative Felician, you're recognized, and then Speaker Santos.
I'd like to pose a question to
the sponsor of the amendment.
Yes.
Representative De Lohan, do you yield to the question? Please state your question.
Why only why only women?
Please address the chair.
What's that? Oh. Why is the amendment only towards women rather than why does it need to be split between men and women?
Representative De Lohan.
Well, in my opinion, I feel as though that the woman carries more of the burden in regards to being pregnant and having to make that decision for herself. It's her body, it's her decision, and let's just say she's in a relationship with someone. I feel like at the end of the day, it's the woman's decision to make that choice for herself, for her body, and that is why I said women of Guam.
Does that satisfy your question?
Not really.
You may continue.
I don't really think that it should be only women. I think people is fine. Because it is mostly like women who carry the burden of the baby, but the other side is also men who not speaking for all men, by the way, but a lot of men are, say, breadwinners, so to speak, and why should it only be women? So I feel.
Is
yeah.
that another question? Representative De Lohan.
I think I answered that question already prior, but I have a question.
I believe so.
Yes, but I have a question for.
He still has the floor.
Okay, sorry about that.
Representative Felician, you may continue. Thank you, Representative De Lohan.
That will be all.
All right. On the amendment, Representative Tyrant. Oh, Speaker Santos, I'm sorry.
I'd like to thank Representative De Lohan for sponsoring this amendment. I think that this issue should be I think that this amendment helps to clarify this issue even further, and to talk about to highlight the stakeholders and highlight who is impacted by this lack of service. And I support this resolution, or I support this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. Representative Tyrant, you're recognized.
I have a question for the sponsor of the amendment.
Representative De Lohan, do you yield? Please state your question.
So I too share the same concern as Representative Felician as to why it's only women when in the biological process of making of a baby, you need both a male and a female. And so therefore that product, though coming out from the female, does have some biological attachment to the male as well. So I'd just like her to clarify on why it's only women.
Representative De Lohan.
I just want to clarify that I don't refer to a baby as a product, and I just wanted to say that at the end of the day, for 9 months straight, and even throughout the whole life, the woman is, I believe, a lot more responsible and a lot more, I guess, carrying the weight of, delivering a baby, having a baby. And throughout the process, yes, a male is a part of the process of making a baby, but I feel as though that shouldn't be enough for, to, I guess, address and say that without a male, there wouldn't be, or without a partner, there wouldn't be a baby, because there's such thing as like sperm donors and whatnot. And at the end of the day, I think that women hold more of the burden in regards to pregnancy and the struggles of pregnancy. So I just wanted to say that.
Does that satisfy your question, Representative Tyron?
May I add on?
Sure. Thank you. Are you asking her more questions?
Yes, may I add
Okay.
on? So being that you said, I understand perfectly that women do have more, of course they go through, trimesters and everything, but you say the word, a lot of the burden, but I'd like to ask you, that word is not fully, and also in regards to the sperm donors, those two are produced by males, and so I would like to still ask you, do you still think it's suitable, given that you said it's not fully the burden of a woman, but just a lot of it is?
Representative De Lujan.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I didn't quite
Yes, and please address the chair.
So the word choice was a lot of the burden is put on women. However, we can't deny the fact that sperm does come from males, as well as males you can't argue that males do not take a part in one way or another through a sperm donor or through another way of producing a baby. And so because the word choice was a lot and not fully, does the amendment to put it only on women justify, or is it justified?
Representative De Lujan.
I think so. I believe so. I think that women do in fact carry that, not exactly burden, I'm sorry for saying that, but in regards to I guess, the pregnancy itself, I think that the women are a lot more, not responsible, but they go through it. So I don't know how else to word that. It's very self-explanatory. The women go through that process, their body makes those changes, and I believe at the end of the day, abortions should be their choice. And again, that's the reason why I said the women of Guam, because men can get pregnant, in my opinion, so that's why I say women.
Does that satisfy your question?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative De Lujan. Is that all, Representative Tyron? Representative Valencia, you're recognized.
Oh, it's another amendment. It's okay.
We can address that later when we're on the main motion, sorry. On the amendment. Representative Richards. Vice Speaker Richards. Then.
Before I speak, I'd just like to clarify that I don't support the amendment nor the resolution, but speaking from an objective standpoint, I feel that we cannot disregard the man's role in this situation because we changed the line, line 4, from dangerous to inconvenient. So not only, yes, it is the woman's choice on what to do with her body. We can agree on that, sure, but what if the man doesn't want the child? What if it would be inconvenient for him or dangerous for him? I don't think we're even debating the resolution anymore. I think we're debating the feminist movement, and I think we should stick to the matter at hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. Representative Kennedy, you're recognized. On the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm a little disappointed by my male colleagues today. I do not see why I don't feel why we need to muscle into an abortion resolution. I believe the woman's stance is actually pretty true of abortion. You know, it is the female's body, it's the female's choice. The whole process affects the female a lot more than it affects the males. And I thank Representative Dolahan for introducing the resolution, introducing the amendment to the resolution. One of the things that I grew up Catholic. We grew up on this island. I share the same sentiments as Representative Bloss. I will not be voting on this resolution, but when it comes to wording this resolution out, I'm all for making it very presentable for the fact that if it passes with, a voice that was collectively organized here in the Youth Congress. But speaking, when Vice Speaker Richards said this is just becoming about the feminist movement, sure it is. Maybe it's one of the changes that this island has not been so amenable to yet, And I'm not saying that this should be a free service for everybody just to, go out there and abuse the service. This is deliberative decisions that females make, in their lifetime. These are not light decisions made, at the spur of the moment. So I believe the emotional stress and the decision-making that goes into the female's mind should be respected. Also, the fact that, it says it takes a male to, also create a child. I believe that if the male runs away, it's the female left with the child, It's not like the female can't just run away from the child the same way the male can. That's why these decisions are a lot harder on the female, because she has to terminate something inside of her so that her life can, just be a little bit easier, So I believe with the sentiments of Representative Dolahan's amendment, and I support the amendment, but that's all I can say on this current resolution.
Thank you, Representative Kineni. Any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? Representative Dahilig?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to start off that I'm in opposition of the amendment because of the exclusivity of men and women as a whole. So because it does not include everyone, men and women, and reverting back to the dangerous state where we have already amended it to be an inconvenient state, I would like to state that I am in opposition to it for those reasons.
Thank you, Representative Dahilig. Representative Dichoso, you're recognized. On the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I would just like to say that I am in opposition to the amendment. In general, I am in opposition to the resolution, but I do want to speak on a concern that I have regarding the body's rhetoric on the bill. Now, there's a lot of talk about the burden of the mother and a lot of talk on the pressures on the father. However, something I am not hearing from the body, and this is something that concerns me, is the lack of discussion on the defense of the fetus, the baby. There is a third party involved in this, and that is the baby. Because we could talk about how it's a woman's right to choose. That's debatable. We can talk about whether the man should stay or not. That's a little less debatable. He should stay. But something that is not debatable is that if you are going to attribute the right to determine what is a human life to one single person based on their gender, you're walking a morally tedious line. If you're going to say that because she is a woman and it is her body, she can therefore determine that the life growing inside of her is not a life only because it's inconvenient, you are walking a very, very dangerous line. So I do want to just voice my concern that it doesn't matter if you're a woman, a man, a dog, helicopter, it doesn't matter what you are. If you attribute life based on your intersectionality status, that's simply morally flawed. So I oppose the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dichoso. Any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? Representative Byron Bloss, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to also thank Representative DeChoso for his dissent against this resolution. I'd like to voice my own dissent against this amendment, as well as the resolution as a whole. Of course, abortion as a topic, even pregnancy, is a topic of division, not only for our nation, but here on this island which is mostly Catholic. In my opinion, as we've been talking about, we cannot control what the female chooses for herself. We cannot control what the family chooses for the female, even the male partner. End of the day, we have to be also thinking about the alternatives to abortion, foster care, and adoption. Even though this resolution may pass or not, I like to justify my claim that there are alternatives. I believe that everyone should have a right to live, no matter what. So I just like to say that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Blas. Any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? Representative Dinsman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also agree with Representative Blas that all life is sacred and that I will not be showing any form of support for this resolution, although I do support the amendment, just based on the sheer fact that, yes, it is a female's body, and I'm not saying this just as a female, but it's coming from the standpoint of a woman who one day does intend to be a mother. It pains me to think that saying that men have the right to ever tell a woman, I want you, but I don't want the baby. So you either keep the baby and I leave, or you get rid of the baby and I'll stay. That is what I feel would really be giving power to men in the situation when it comes to abortion in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dinsman. Any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? Representative Labang, you're recognized.
I just want to say that to everyone that it's ironic how we're talking about this resolution right now. It's like Christmas time is the nativity of Jesus. And like, I would say with that amendment, I think it's okay. I kind of support the amendment, but at the same time, like, when you decide, I think you should also consider other things, like your parents. What will your parents say? What will your partner say? The father of that child. So I like the intent of that resolution. It's just like we're excluding some people. So that's my opinion on this amendment.
Thank you, Representative Labang. Any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? If not, there have been objections. Although, is that an objection, Representative Daly? Okay. There have been objections to. Okay, right. Representative DeLohan, you can close on the amendment.
Okay, I know everyone's kind of heated up about this topic, but it's nice that we're talking about it. I feel like it's a great way for us to start this discussion and keep on moving forward with it. No matter where you vote, whether you think that this amendment shouldn't pass or should pass, I think it's important to know that, at least from my standpoint, I see it as the woman of Guam bearing that responsibility. So that's just what I have to say.
Thank you, Representative DeLohan. On the amendment, there have been objections. All those in favor of the amendment to replace people on line 4, page 1, to women of Guam, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion fails. On the main motion, Representative Valencia, you're recognized.
I'd just like to ask for clarification with one of the words on line 5, page 1. What is readily? Does he mean readily? And if so, I'd like to make an amendment to change line 5 on page 1 to abortion services are not readily available. And
Representative Valencia, are you posing a question to the author of the resolution?
Yes.
Okay, Representative Quintanilla, do you yield?
Yes.
Okay, please state your question again.
So for line 5 on page 1, what is readily?
No, I believe your concern was correct. That's a typo.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Representative Quintanilla. So you wanted to move forward with an amendment, right?
Yes.
Representative Valencia, please state your amendment.
So for line 5 on page 1, I'd like to make an amendment to change line 5 on page 1 to abortion services are not readily available. And
Okay, on the amendment, any member who wishes to speak? Representative Elijah Santos, you're recognized.
I would like to state that I am in support of this amendment. And just to clarify things further, when you say readably, it can be defined in a sense or a manner of being capable of being read or legibly. And when you say readily, I feel like it would suit the line much better since it means without delay or difficulty or easily.
Thank you, Representative Santos. On the amendment, any other member who wishes to speak? If not, are there any objections? If none, so ordered. Representative Valencia, you may continue. Is that all? Okay. Representative Lorenzo, you're recognized. Okay. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? Representative Tyron?
I have a question for the sponsor of the resolution.
I'm sorry, Representative Tyron, you already spoke on the main motion, unless a representative would like to yield their time to Representative Tyron. No one? Okay. Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield my time to Representative Tyron.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
Thank you.
And you wanted to pose a question to Representative Quintanilla, right?
Yes. So, I too share the same concern as Representative LeBang on the lack of statistics backing up the need for an abortion provider, because Guam as a whole is heavily lacking and in dire need of many medical professionals and physicians. And so I'd like to know why this particular provider, I feel like I need statistics to know why it's in an inconvenient state and why we are in dire need of this part of a particular position for abortions.
What was your question again?
Like why isn't statistics available when I feel it is very important for, or to know the need of an abortion physician on island?
Representative Quintanilla.
I don't recall yielding to the question.
Do you yield to the question, Representative Quintanilla?
No.
All right, you may continue, Representative Tyron.
No, nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? Representative Cruz. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to show my full support for this bill because growing up on a predominantly Catholic island where Catholicism is really rooted not only within our households, our island, wherever we go, or even within our school districts, I feel as if that by not having a doctor as of right now, currently, it does pose as something to be dangerous, only because abortion really is a sensitive topic to talk about, especially growing up on Guam where it is really rooted in religion. There are so many people who can say that it is very controversial to talk about and to really have a set opinion on it. Whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, I feel as if the body, we should look at the bigger picture here and see that it is dangerous by not having a doctor. Women could go about having unsafe abortions, home abortions, and in all, I just don't think that is something that, I just think that it's something that we could prevent by implementing this resolution, and that's why I show my full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cruz. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? Representative Dichoso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and sorry everybody for speaking on this again. But you gotta forgive me for being a little passionate about this issue, only because I may not be a woman, I may not be pregnant, but I was told several times by people that I do have to hit the gym more often. That being said, it's obvious that we all have our biases, and while I might agree that the intentions of the resolution may be written with the best intentions in mind, I'd have to express that I am in opposition to it. So there's been a lot of talk as of late about the complexity of some issues, right? We talked a little bit about it in our group chat. We see it constantly in the media and daily in politics that some things are simply too nuanced, too complex for one single answer to fit everybody. But I, on the other hand, view this issue in a different light. I oppose the resolution and I stand against abortion because I see this as actually being one of the most black and white issues that this body will ever have to face. We are discussing the life of an unborn human child. That's not up for debate. We might disagree whether that child is truly alive or not. But frankly, those opinions don't matter because the science is simple. That cluster of cells, which many of those who are pro-choice would like to describe that unborn human life as, they become human beings down the line. Regardless of where you place the beginning of life in that timeline between conception and birth, you are still talking about the prevention of that process of a potential human life. Whether it's when the brain tissue develops, or when the blood type is different from the mother's, or when pain receptors finally develop, we're still talking about the prevention of a human life. It's not complicated. It's not a matter of religion, because we can all agree, and we should agree, that the sanctity of human life is something that we have to, is not something that's exclusive to any single faith. It's not a matter of a woman's right to choose either, because a woman can choose to protect herself from pregnancy, but the baby cannot choose to protect itself from from the mother. It's not a matter of controlling a woman's body either, because that woman can do whatever she wants with her body, but as long as she's not harming another life. So that's what it comes down to, not harming human life and protecting it from whatever threat that might exist. And as young people within the government, or involved in the government, it's important for us to recognize one of the government, probably the most important role that the government plays in society, and that is to protect life, whether the threat comes domestically from a foreign source or at the hands of our fellow citizens. This is why I oppose the resolution and, more importantly, take a stand against abortion. It's not a health issue, it's not a viable option, it's not a matter of being a public good. It's also not complicated. So I have no problem with there being a lack of abortion providers on the island. As a matter of fact, I celebrate it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dichoso. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? Representative Lorenzo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to yield my time to Representative LeBang.
Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
Earlier I stated I oppose this resolution, but let me say I just get frustrated on how this resolution could be more better if we extend it more further, like work more through it. But with the amendments that they made earlier, I think it will be satisfied, but I still have some reservation on this. So, as what Representative Dichoso say, like, there's a lot of things that we need to consider before we vote for this resolution. So, I would say that for all of us today to reflect on this resolution and see what would this resolution affect in the future, not only today, but also in the future as well. So that's all.
Thank you, Representative Labang. Any other member who wishes to speak? You already spoke on the main motion. If none, Representative Quintanilla, you're invited to close.
Representative Quintanilla, you're recognized.
Oh, okay. I thought he was going to. All right. Okay. What is going on?
You can close.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear him. Thank you. Okay. To whom it may concern, to celebrate the lack of abortion services on Guam, I abhor that opinion. This is a nightmare situation we're living in. I try to put myself into the shoes of someone on Guam who finds themselves pregnant that would like to have an abortion. This is not an easy decision to make. It is incredibly complex and emotional. And I imagine that if they had the desire to go off island to get an abortion, it would be tremendously expensive. So I would like to, what's the word? Support the option to get an abortion on Guam. I apologize. I am not in the most energized state of mind right now. I forget what I was going to say next, so thank you. Oh.
Thank you, Representative.
I make a motion to place resolution.
Four.
4-32 on this third reading file.
All right, there's been a motion to place resolution 4-32 onto the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Mr. Speaker, you may resume the chair.
Thank you. We're back in motions. Representative Labang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to place resolution 1-32 to second reading file.
On the motion to place resolution 1-32 on the second reading file, are there any objections? If none, so ordered. You may continue.
Mr. Speaker, today we reported the members of each committees, and I believe that there's only one committee left that's open. And with that being said, 2 persons in this chamber right now has not been part of any committees. And with that being said, we added section 16.01E, which is requiring each member to be in 2 committees. I think that it would not satisfy with 1 open committee only. So I make this resolution to extend the membership of each committees to 10 at maximum. So it would open more way for any representative if they're eager to join any other committees as well. Because honestly, committees is where we fine-tune everything to make bills and resolutions that we talked about in this sessions. So with that being said, I ask the support of everyone for this resolution.
Thank you, Representative Labang. On the main motion, Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
I know you guys are probably getting tired of hearing my voice this morning, but I would like to express my support for Resolution 1-32. As right now, as the acting chairman for one of the committees that's not full, I realize that a lot of the other committees are overfilled with outstanding members left. It's pertinent that we get these new representatives into committees where they can express their ideas and beliefs. Because most of our resolutions and bills do pass through committees, and it's a way to keep them involved in the process. Even with all the original, all the people that were there at the first meeting, there were still some committees that people wanted to be on that were already filled. So I believe that adding 2 more slots, it opens up all the committees for if anyone else is also interested in joining, one other committee. But let's give preference to the newer members who have not been assigned yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
I'd like to give the members who are not a part of the Committee on Rules some context as to why this resolution didn't get approved by the Committee on Rules to be on the session agenda, and why that motion had to take place instead. In discussing this resolution, the committee had apprehensions for several reasons. Firstly, we hadn't solidified the committees at the time this resolution was introduced, so we really didn't know the extent of the problem at the time. The second reason was that there are the second reason is that in joining a committee, it's more than just a proclamation of support for a certain issue. In joining a committee, you must attend the meetings, because the committee process is paramount to the processing of bills to get on the session floor in the first place. And the sponsor of the resolution is really familiar with this problem, because the committee, when a bill was introduced to the sponsors committee, the sponsor was not able to achieve quorum to process this bill out in the normal committee process. So that's the root of the problem of why I don't support this resolution yet. I really wish that this resolution didn't come on session until we understood the problem of the committee process and what has happened and the problems with attendance in the committee meetings first. Yes, there are some representatives who are not a part of committees, and this is not saying that I don't support representatives joining committees. I think that we need to look at the rules and go over what needs to be changed a little bit more further than this specific rule change. But ultimately, the fact that only one committee was able to achieve quorum in the month since we've all been inaugurated may or may not show a problem. And we don't know until we have more time to understand what the problem is with the committee process. And that being said, that's why I didn't want this resolution to be discussed yet. Ultimately, I do hope that that those who aren't involved in committees yet do continue to be involved with committees that are open, as well as to sponsor bills that are relative to the committees that you would like to be a part of. That's a good way to get into the committee. But what we're seeing right now is an issue where representatives join committees, but the committees aren't able to achieve quorum. And we need to look at that issue before making the committees even bigger and making the committees have even a harder time to achieve quorum and to push this legislative process further. So if we had more time with this to address the problem before we talked about this resolution, I would wholeheartedly support this resolution because I want the representatives to talk about the issues that matter to them. And like I said, there are other avenues by tackling your own policies to do that in spite of not being in a committee. But because this resolution was brought onto the floor, I'm having apprehensions in jeopardizing the committee process that has become so integral to getting us on the session floor in the first place. So with that being said, I'm not in support of the resolution now. And I urge my colleagues to find other avenues to be involved in the issues in the committees that they would like to be a part of. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. Representative Garrido, you're recognized.
I would like to yield my time to Representative Kaneni.
To whom?
Representative Kaneni.
Okay, Representative Kaneni, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a point of inquiry for the chairman of the Rules Committee.
Do you yield, Speaker Santos?
So my question is, without the passage of this resolution, multiple members are in violations of our standing rules. So how would we address that before the session ends today?
We would need to take a look at the resolution itself. Historically, we have had instances on members who have violated certain rules, and there are disciplinary actions in the resolutions that are in the rules that we can follow through protocol. But as of now, we would need to, instead of addressing it at this particular session, we need to look at the rules overall and look at the problems. Because I recognize your point. I recognize the point being that this is in no fault to the members themselves. This is a rule that was instituted in this term that we didn't realize would become such an issue. And that being said, we need to tackle the root of the problem, which isn't the representatives itself, but the way that the rules have set up the representatives themselves to be in violation of the rules. So my priority is not to look at the representatives who are in violation, but it's to look at the rules that have institutionally disadvantaged them.
Does that satisfy your question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, but I would like to continue.
Yes.
With that being said, I disagree with former Speaker Santos. I believe that if one of the integral parts of Guam Youth Congress is its committees, and to not even be included in any of the committees to me is not one of the traditions and ways of the Guam Youth Congress. It violates our current standing rules, So I believe anything that's in violation of our current standing rules, we currently have a resolution right now to fix that. So I believe that, despite the, one of the other things I also wanted to speak on was the fact that he said no other committee was allowed to have quorum. There was only, I believe, one or two committees that had had meetings because they had bills and resolutions pertaining to their committees. Every other committee did not have a bill or resolution pertaining to their committee, therefore they did not meet. So I'm in support of this resolution only because it fixes a current issue in our standing rules, and it allows for the process of Youth Congress to run a lot smoother, if we're all in agreement with our standing rules that we adopted on our inauguration day. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kaneni. Representative Lorenzo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I wanted to say, I do support the intent of this resolution. However, although it does address, like Representative Kennedy did say, it addresses the current issue now, but this is my third term in Guam Youth Congress, and I have seen that towards the end of our term, we are struggling to have committee meetings because of the quorum, and I'm scared that if we were to bump up the capacity size of the committees, it's going to be even more harder for at the end of the term to have committee meetings to meet the quorum that would have a committee meeting. So that is my take on it. I mean, I do support the intent. It's like, you know, like Representative Kennedy did say, it's like no one isn't, or not a lot of people are included in the committees that they want, but I'm not only thinking about right now, but I'm thinking long term. So, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lorenzo. Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Yes, I would like to apply my math major skills to this problem and come up with a solution. Hold on, let me pull it up. Okay, so I think the problem last term when we didn't have enough people was because the body shrunk, and now we have more members in the body. So my amendment will be to change lines 14 to 15. We're going to cross out maximum just for grammatical purposes, and it will read requirement for committee membership from no less than 1/4 of the body and no more than 1/3 of the body.
No less than what?
No less than 1/4 of the body, 1/4, and no more than 1/3 of the body. And that's it.
Do you wish to speak on the amendment?
I think it makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
On the amendment, Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To address the Vice Speaker's amendment, I see a little bit of a problem with that down the line, because if the body does start shrinking and representatives do start either resigning or being removed from office, do we have to remove committee members then that are still on our committee because we reached a different number for a maximum threshold? Is that what the the new issue is going to be?
Are you posing a question to the?
Yes.
Okay. Do you yield?
Sure. Can you please restate it?
So the question is, wouldn't this cause problems down the road if we have full committees now and the body shrinks? We would have to start cutting committee members?
If the body shrinks? Okay, I see what you're saying. It might, yes, but I believe it solves the problem that we're trying to address right now. And if it comes down to that, why would we need so many committee members? Why would we need such a large committee for such a small body? I think it would be reasonable to cut down a large committee if we have a small body.
Okay. That satisfies my question. But I would like to speak in opposition of this amendment. I believe this would just create problems further down the line for committees that we are trying to establish right now at the beginning of our term. Because how we start our term is how we're going to keep things rolling. So if we're starting out fumbling with committees, we're starting out fumbling with bills and resolutions, people start losing enthusiasm, people start losing interest, and all of a sudden Guam Youth Congress becomes a lame duck session for another year. So I believe that the way to start this term is on the right foot, and I believe this resolution does put us on the right foot because of our extraordinarily large number this year. This amendment, however, does handicap our ability to keep committee membership stable further down the line if we do decide to remove members. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. Representative Labang, you're recognized. On the amendment.
Can the amendment be repeated? I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
Here's the amendment. On lines 14 to 15 on page 1 of the resolution, we're striking out the word maximum, and it would read, requirement for committee membership from striking out more, so it's going to read from no less than 1/4 to no more than 1/3, except the Committee on Rules and be it further.
Okay, so I got this. So being a math major as well, I agree with this amendment because I think it will solve down the line that we expect that our population right now is big, but later on in time, we need to re-amend these rules in a way, like last term, I made an amendment rule to make the minimum to 3. Now I'm making the maximum higher. But with this amendment, I think it will satisfy on how much or how less each committees would be. Because I think there's some people that will graduate this year that represent a school, and so I expect that our population will be down. So I think this amendment is a compromise.
Is that all?
Yes.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. On the main motion, on the amendment, Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
I'd like to thank the Vice Speaker for this amendment. And being the chairman of the Committee on Rules, I understand I really would like the longevity of the rules itself. And doing the math, this resolution reads, or this amendment reads the same as the intent of the original resolution, but at the same time, creating the longevity of, at the very least at the moment, where more members could be a part of the committees. And I feel like this is a good way to regulate the size of the committees themselves without, it's a good way to regulate the size of the committees based on the size of the body. And we can, if this amendment passes, we can look into resolutions to look at the process of changing committee sizes. But I do feel like having this fluid committee size option could appease many of the members of the committee or many of the members of the body to be able to join committees, as well as provide longevity to the rules so that certain rules like these don't always have to be amended varying the size of the body. We can just add rules to help institutionalize this particular new amendment in place. So that's why I support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker Santos.
Just for point of information for everyone, since 1/4 and 1/3.
Please state your point of information.
So it's going to be 7.5 to 10 with the current population right now. If we round it up, it's 8 to 10. Yeah, so I'm just giving you guys the information if you guys don't understand what's 1/4, no less than 1/4 to no more than 1/3.
I think everybody here knows math, right? On the amendment, Representative Byron Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank Representative LeBang for presenting that point. There is a discrepancy within this amendment. Of course, 1/4 is 7.5. You cannot say we're going to have half of a person in a committee. That's the minimum. Of course, I approve of this amendment, but I feel like it should be, I'm not sure if we could compromise and say 1/5, because I believe this amendment is just, of course, it's going to be fluid. It's supposed to represent a fraction of the body. Of course, throughout our term...
Point of information.
Please state your point of information.
Scattered throughout our rules, we have fractions like 1/2 of the vote, 3/4 of the vote, 2/3 of, or 3/4 of the body, 2/3 of the body, and for those purposes, we round up.
Okay, so Representative Richards, then that would mean you would round up, in this case, to 8.
Yes, and may I respond to his question?
Do you yield?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So yes, we
Please
would round up
address the
to
chair.
8, so that it would mathematically read the same as the original bill, but leaves room for it to change along the future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
On the main motion, on the amendment, sorry. Are there any objections? There's been an objection. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. Motion passes. On the main motion, any member who wishes to speak? If none, Representative LeBang, you're invited to close.
I want to take the time to thank Vice Speaker Richards for making that compromise, because I think that it will solve this amendment. The amendment he made will be used in future terms, because it's always the population of Guam Youth Congress that makes a problem with committee hearings and stuff. And with making that clause, it would open an avenue for other term to adapt to the current population they have. And with that being said, I ask everyone for the support for this resolution, and I make a motion to move it to third reading file for voting.
On the motion to place resolution number 1-32 on the third reading file, are there any objections? If none, so ordered. We've exhausted all the items on our agenda. Let's go ahead and move on to the second roll call. Recording Secretary. Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
I make a motion to reflect first roll call to second roll call.
You mean second roll call to reflect first roll call?
Yes, other way around. Sorry, my bad.
No problem. There's been a motion to that second roll call reflect the first roll call. Are there any objections? If none, so ordered. Let's move on to the consideration of the daily file. And we'll move on with the third reading. Third reading file, if the recording secretary could please read the titles of the legislative items and then to call a roll call for voting. So to the body, this is the point in our agenda that we vote on the items that we discussed today. So we're going to be in the voting file. So the recording secretary will read the title, and then she'll call each one of you by name, and you either vote yes, no, or you pass. You may pass 3 times, but on the third time you pass, that is considered a no vote. Does everybody understand? Can you do this? Awesome. Ms. Mary Maravilla, could you please?
Bill number 1-32, as amended by the Committee on Rules and further amended on the floor, introduced by Al Edrich C. LeBang. An act to add new subsections 12122 and 12123 to Chapter 12, Title 17, Guam Code Annotated, relative to requiring certification for Guam Academy Charter Schools teachers, and to cite this act as teacher employment in charter schools. Representative Uggan. Representative Byron Blas. Representative Travis Blas. Representative Cruz. Representative DeHillig. Representative DeGracia. Representative DiCioso. Representative Dinsman. Representative DeLohan, Representative Duenas, Representative Felicen, Representative Garrido, Representative LeBang, Secretary Lorenzo, Representative Maige, Representative Peretta, Representative Pierre Paul, Representative Kineni, Representative Quintanilla, Vice Speaker Richards, Representative Rosario, Representative Santos, Elijah Santos, Representative Javen Santos, Representative Tyron, Representative Trinidad, Speaker Valencia, Representative Isabel Valencia, Representative Kineni,
Bill number 1-32 as amended by the Committee on Rules received 26 ayes and 0 nays and hereby passes.
Just a point of order, Mr. Speaker. We need to waive engrossment of the bills and resolutions.
As per our standing rules, they don't need engrossment.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, it's 27 ayes. It passed. Congratulations, Representative LeBang. On your first bill, moving on to resolution number 3-32.
Resolution number 3-32, introduced by Committee on Land and Environment, relative to expressing in Congression Mehobin Guahan support for Bill number 379-34 COR, introduced in Iminatrente Cuatro Legislature in Guahan, the 34th Guam Legislature. Representative Uggan. Representative Uggan, aye. Representative Byron Blas. Representative Byron Blas, aye. Representative Travis Blas. Representative Travis Blas, aye. Representative Cruz. Representative Cruz, aye. Representative DeHillig. Representative DeHillig, aye. Representative DeGracia. Oh, I thought you left. Oh, sorry. Representative DiCioso. Representative DiCioso, aye. Representative Dinsman. Representative Dinsman, aye. Representative DeLohan. Representative DeLohan, aye. Representative Duenas. Representative Duenas, aye. Representative Felicen. Representative Felicen, aye. Representative Garrido. Representative Garrido, aye. Representative LeBang. Representative LeBang. Representative LeBang, aye. Secretary Lorenzo. Secretary Lorenzo, aye. Representative Maige. Representative Maige, aye. Representative Peretta. Representative Peretta, aye. Representative Pierre-Paul. Representative Pierre-Paul, aye. Representative Kennedy. Representative Kennedy, aye. Representative Cantanita. Representative Cantanita, aye. Vice Speaker Richards. Vice Speaker Richards, aye. Representative Rosario. Representative Rosario, aye. Representative Elijah Santos. Representative Elijah Santos, aye. Representative Javen Santos. Representative Javen Santos, aye. Representative Tyron. Representative Tyron, yes. Representative Trinidad. Representative Trinidad, aye. Speaker Christian Valencia. Speaker Christian Valencia, aye. Representative Isabel Valencia. Isabel Valencia, aye.
Resolution number 3-32 as amended on the floor. Or is it amended on the floor? I'm just kidding. Received 26 ayes and hereby passes. Congratulations. What? 26? I don't know. Moving on to resolution number 4-32.
Resolution number 4-32, as amended by the Committee on Rules and further amended on the floor, introduced by Tristan Xavier Cantanita, relative to urging the government of Guam to take measures to make abortion services readily available and convenient to the people of Guam, and to acknowledging the availability of abortion services as a viable option. Representative Uggan. Representative Byron Blas. Representative Byron Blas, nay. Representative Travis Blas. Representative Travis Blas, nay. Representative Cruz. Representative Cruz, aye. Representative DeHelig. Representative DeHelig, aye. Representative DeGracia. I'm sorry. Representative DiCioso. Representative DiCioso, nay. Representative Dinsman. Representative Dinsman, nay. Representative Dolohan. Representative Dolohan, aye. Representative Duenas. Representative Duenas, aye. Representative Felicen. Representative Felicen, pass. Representative Garrido. Representative Garrido, aye. Representative Labang. Representative Labang, pass. Secretary Lorenzo. Secretary Lorenzo, pass. Representative Maige. Representative Maige, nay. Representative Peretta. Representative Peretta, nay. Representative Pierre-Paul. Representative Pierre-Paul, nay. Representative Kennedy. Representative Kennedy, pass. Representative Cantanita. Representative Cantanita, aye. Vice Speaker Richards. Representative Richards, nay. Representative Rosario. Representative Rosario, pass. Representative Elijah Santos. Representative Elijah Santos, pass. Representative Javen Santos. Representative Javen Santos, aye. Representative Tyron Pass. Representative Trinidad. Representative Trinidad Pass. Speaker Christian Valencia. Speaker Christian Valencia, nay. Representative Isabel Valencia. Representative Isabel Valencia, pass. Representative Felicen. Representative Felicen, nay. Representative LeBang. Representative LeBang, pass. Representative Secretary Lorenzo. Secretary Lorenzo, nay. Representative Kaneni. Representative Kaneni, pass. Representative Rosario. Representative Rosario, pass. Representative Elijah Santos. Representative Elijah Santos, pass. Representative Tyron. Representative Tyron, pass. Representative Trinidad. Representative Trinidad, nay. Representative Isabel Valencia. Representative Isabel Valencia, pass. Representative LeBang. Representative LeBang, nay. Representative Kaneni. Representative Kaneni, nay. Representative Rosario. Representative Rosario, nay. Representative Elijah Santos. Representative Elijah Santos, nay. Representative Tyron. Representative Tyron, nay. Representative Isabel Valencia. Representative Isabel Valencia, nay. I got 18. Oh, sorry. What?
Resolution number 4-32 as amended by the Committee on Rules and further amended on the floor received 7 ayes and 18 nays and hereby fails. Moving on to resolution number 1-32. The recording secretary, please.
Resolution number 1-32 as amended on the floor, introduced by Al Edrich C. LeBang, relative to amending Rule 16 of the Standing Rules of the 32nd Guam Youth Congress pertaining to the election and appointment of committee members. Representative Uggan. Representative Uggan, aye. Representative Byron Blas. Representative Byron Blas, aye. Representative Travis Blas. Representative Travis Blas, aye. Representative Cruz. Representative Cruz, aye. Representative DeHillig. Representative DeHillig, aye. Representative Dichoso. Representative Dichoso, aye. Representative Dinsman. Representative Dinsman, aye. Representative Dolohan. Representative Dolohan, aye. Representative Representative Dolohan, pass. Representative Duenas. Representative Duenas, pass. Representative Felicen. Representative Felicen, aye. Representative Garrido. Representative Garrido, pass. Representative Labang. Representative Labang, aye. Secretary Lorenzo. Secretary Lorenzo, aye. Representative Maige. Representative Maige, aye. Representative Peretta. Representative Peretta, aye. Representative Pierre-Paul. Representative Pierre-Paul, aye. Representative Kennedy. Representative Kennedy, pass. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, pass. Vice Speaker Richards. Vice Speaker Richards, aye. Representative Rosario. Representative Rosario, aye. Representative Elijah Santos. Representative Elijah Santos, aye. Representative Javen Santos. Representative Javen Santos, aye. Representative Tyron. Representative Tyron, aye. Representative Trinidad. Representative Trinidad, aye. Speaker Christian Valencia. Speaker Christian Valencia, aye. Representative Isabel Valencia. Representative Isabel Valencia, aye. Representative DeLohan. Representative DeLohan, aye. Representative Duenas. Representative Duenas, aye. Representative Garrido. Representative Garrido, aye. Representative Kennedy. Representative Kennedy, pass. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, aye. Representative Kennedy. Representative Kennedy, nay.
Resolution 1-32 as amended on the floor received 25 ayes and 1 nay, and hereby passes. We've exhausted all the items in our voting file. We'll now move on to brief extension of remarks. Any member who wishes to speak? Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
On behalf of the Committee on Economic Development, Labor and Tourism, any additional members who are willing to join or would like to join can either talk to me or talk to Chairman Mantanani through WhatsApp, or you can speak to me before I leave session today, but we would be very interested in having a few more members so that we can become a full committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. And I would just like to explain to the body this part of our agenda, the brief extension of remarks. This is where you speak more on the issues we discussed today. Anything we discussed today with regards, like Representative Kennedy discussed the committees. So this is the time for you to maybe also explain your vote and all of that. Okay, Representative Labang, you're recognized.
I just want to thank everyone that supported my bill and my resolution. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to talk about Resolution 4-32, why I voted pass on that. It's just, I'm in full support of the intent of the resolution. It's just like, I think something is lacking. I think I am open to work it out with Representative Quintanilla if he wants to maybe reintroduce something similar to this. It's just like, there's a lot of things we need to consider, especially with this kind of resolution, this kind of issue, which is abortion. And with that being said, with my education bill, I just want to say again, thank you. And that I am now more relieved that we can pull this through and like our incoming legislature would hear this kind of bill. Because like, I think that we should more prioritize education. And if you guys have anything about education, I'm more open to work with you. And that's all I have to say for this.
Thank you, Representative Labang. Any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Dahilig, you're recognized.
I'd like to thank my sisters and brothers for supporting Resolution 03-32. And I ask for your continued support as we, maybe in the next session, we might have a bill to pass for to ban polystyrene. So today was a resolution, tomorrow a bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dahilig. Representative Delohan, you're recognized.
I just wanted to speak in regards to Representative Quintanilla's bill in regards to the abortion bill. I want to work with him and alongside with Al in regards to maybe providing the data and hopefully presenting a better solution or a better stance in regards to the bill. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Representative Delohan. Representative Quintanilla, you're recognized.
Speaking on Resolution 4-32, I have taken the feedback provided by the body to heart, and I realized that in my rush to quickly pass a resolution on the matter, I forewent perfecting the logical structure of my argument. I will take this feedback to consideration and rewrite this resolution, hopefully in a more palatable form. And those who wish to join me in rewriting it, I invite you to do so.
Thank you, Representative Quintanilla. Any member who wishes to speak? Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
Just in general, I want to say thank you to everybody who is in their first term, who took up the mantle to come up and speak on the issues that we've discussed today. I remember my first term in the Youth Congress, our first session, our first December session when we're actually talking about bills and resolutions, it was silent. The discussion during this session just was overwhelming, and I thank all the representatives who were brave enough to come up and talk. I feel like we got a lot done this session, and I thank you all for taking up the mantle to participate, and I look forward to it. I look forward to discussing other issues with everybody again as our term goes on together. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. Any member? Representative Byron Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to share Representative Santos' sentiments. This is a very productive session. I think this is the longest session I've experienced. Yeah. But I'm glad that everyone joined in the discussion and voted on, or rather passed, 3 out of the 4 items on the agenda. I'd like to also reiterate my point of why I didn't support resolution number 4-32. By no means do I not disrespect the intentions. I understand. But there are clear alternatives to abortion. Abortion isn't the only choice. You have adoption and foster care. But I hope that in the future, with this resolution being worked on later, I hope that this body can reiterate their points of why abortion is a good choice. But then again, I also like to say that I by no means support it, but I respect it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Byron Blas. Any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Vice Speaker Richards, you are recognized.
Thank you, Representative Speaker Valencia. Yeah, just like to address the body and say that this is how it works. We present our ideas, we speak our piece, and we're not always in agreement with each other. Not everything's going to pass unanimously. Sometimes we get heated, sometimes we rub each other the wrong way, but at the end of the day, if we're not cooperative throughout our term, then it'll just be harder. So even though we disagree, at the end of the day, we still have to work together. So don't take things too personally, and don't take it to heart. Just make your arguments and be satisfied with the result. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. Any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
I just want to apologize for when I was talking to Representative DeLohan and accidentally called a baby a product. I in no way meant to offend her or anybody, and I myself, I really apologize for that. So I don't see babies as products. I see them as, humans, and I love them. So, okay, thank you.
There are baby products, though, right? Thank you, Representative Tyron. Any other member who wishes to speak? If none, we'll move on to item 20, announcements. Any announcements? Of course, Representative LeBlanc, you're recognized.
I just want to greet everyone of you happy holidays.
That's not an announcement. Secretary Lorenzo, you're recognized.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I do know on our group chat, I forgot who actually brought it up, but people are discussing creating a bill about decriminalizing marijuana. The owner of Laddystone Wellness Center actually reached out to me. He actually wanted to have like a meeting with the representatives who are interested in pursuing that bill. Let me just give a brief background of him. So Killa Robinson, he is the founder of Laddystone Wellness Center. It's the Guam's first and only center for alternative therapy and alternative medicine. So they have like CBD products there, and it like kind of goes together with like decriminalizing marijuana. So he's inviting all representatives who are interested in pursuing that bill to come and meet with him personally. He'll kind of give you guys like a guideline of like, like some more background information and more research. So if you are interested, please message me. But the meeting is set for this upcoming Wednesday, December 19 at 6 p.m. It's actually, the location of the office is actually up the Sinahanya Hill. It's really close from here, so that's it. So just more information, I'll put that on the group chat today, but thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Lorenzo. Representative Quintanilla, announcements.
I would like to make the announcement that the Commission on Decolonization's regular meeting will be held Tuesday, December 18th at 3 p.m. in a large conference room at the Ricardo J. Berdalio Governor's Complex. Those who would like to attend, please feel welcome.
Any other announcements? Representative Maiga, you're recognized.
Hi, Guam High School's NJRTC Panther Company is, I'm allowed to announce this? Okay. Guam High School's NJRTC Panther Company is participating in the Manilao flea market, and it'd be really nice if anybody would like to buy the clothes that we're quote unquote selling. Our company needs money. I'm not saying to give you money, but it'd be really nice if you guys would like to come and donate. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Maige. Representative Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just like to, whoa, I just lost my train of thought. You made me lose my train of thought. Well, my second announcement was that the leadership is planning on doing a bonding for the Youth Congress soon, so just look out for that. I'll come back for the other one.
Any other announcements? Representative Byron Blas, you recognized.
Since it is holiday season, I would like to invite everyone here to celebrate Mass, Christmas night, midnight Mass at our FD's campus, our chapel. Be very good Mass. We have a choir, so all blown out, so you'll be blown away by the acoustics in that chapel. So, yeah, be ready if you want to come. Thank you. Or our boys' chapel, yes, on campus.
Sample.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Byron Blas. Vice Speaker Richards, you are again recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Guam Visitors Bureau is opening up the Tumon Lights Monday evening at 6 p.m. I know you guys are eager, so for your information. Monday at 6, they're opening.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Representative Travis Blas, you're recognized.
Hi guys, so my senior class is hosting gift wrapping starting tomorrow all the way to the 23rd of December. It'll be at GPO from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. and we will be located in front of Famous Footwear. Okay.
Thank you. Any other announcements? If none, is there a motion? Oh, Representative Kennedy, you're recognized. Is there a motion to adjourn? Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the session of Guam Youth Congress and reconvene on January 19, 2019 at 9 a.m.
There's been a motion to adjourn this session and reconvene on January 19, 2018 at 9 a.m. Is there an objection? 2019. There's an objection. It's not debatable.
Can I make a motion to the motion to make it subject to the call of speaker?
Is that an amendment to the motion?
Yes. Subject to the call of speaker.
It's a non-debatable motion. On the motion to adjourn and reconvene on January 19, 2019 at 9 a.m. All those in favor, please raise your hand. So ordered. We're adjourned.